Yastina was released. Expect a guide soon with a special guest to help. However, in the meantime, enjoy this patch coverage with the tier list at the end for solo queue. I'm your host Jolteon.
We have a relatively big patch here on 1.40, and with 2 patches left in the season, this is likely the last big patch we will see with Yastina's release. We are expecting the Token Mai skin next patch, but for now, I'm co-host Jignut, and this is your 1.40 overview.
We saw some new cosmetics. Not really crazy about any of them except for the Yastina C emote.
First up, we have some mutant credit gain increasing, making farming a little bit more valuable.
There was 3 major changes for augments. One was heavy knee pads saw a quality of life buff and cutting the time for the shield regen while out of combat in half. An early game buff to healing factor from levels 1 to 9, equaling out at level 10 and being a nerf from levels 11 to 20. This hit to healing factor is accompanied by a buff to Sentinel, allowing for a more diverse choice in supportive augments, and overall a great change.
For attack skills, the main change here is Quake got a bit weaker level 1, but a bit stronger for level 2 if you're building HP, which most of the Quake characters are tanks, so this will help them out a lot. Possibly just a change due to the tankier Daniel builds running around on KR servers.
Razi saw mainly a nerf to her passive as you max it first, but it is buffed before level 5 while being the same until level 9, where it's then nerfed.
Mai saw a buff to her durability at the cost of her ease speed being lowered, making it overall more reactable. The durability increase is pretty decent, and the speed of her dash was only very slightly lowered, so it's more of a change than a straight nerf. Even a buff in some scenarios.
Barbara sees another buff of 2% to her turret's damage, and a 1 second off her W. There's not a lot to say about this, other than she might be one of the few characters to receive back-to-back to back-to-back-to-back buffs after rework.
Celine's passive got a nice buff as it wasn't really utilized that much because of her attack speed feeling really low, and along with her being so spell spammy that fitting an auto attack in with slow attack speed didn't feel great. So this patch made it feel a lot more fluid to use, which is good.
Arda put on a bit of too strong of performance during ERM and is accordingly being dialed back. For these formats, while giving him a bit of a buff for the average player, his ultimate saw a 1 second cooldown increase, his RQ gives 5% more CDR on hit, RW gives 0.1 more CC per level. The large changes to RE are it lost distance on the gate and 3 seconds off how long it can stay out. This should put a lot less pressure on teams wondering whether or not the Arda's team will be using the gate, and the lower distance makes the chase and escape worse, giving meaningful changes for the higher tiers while not hurting a normal player as much.
Priya got some amp scalings on some of her skills, and her special headpiece also got a buff which will really help her out without making her too overtuned all at once.
Hisui, one of the most decisive changes among the community and the main reason why this video was taking so long. She's been drumming up a lot of discourse over everything that she's lost, which is she lost stacking with her weapon skill, her uninterruptible on backdash of E, her W2's dash now is restricted to being enemy on hit, and she gained faster animation speed on W2 based on her attack speed. She gained health per level and base defense as well. The main thing this does is hurt her escape, her fast W3 combo where she could get 2 off in a short time, and her safety on entry and escape from CC. As a plus, the hotfix just came out and they increased her CDR on autos by 10% at max for a total of 30%. We wanted to wait and try her out in ranked before making a final judgment, and my judgment is this character is borderline trolling in higher elos, and even better in lower elos. Her W2 is now an incredibly fast and safe engage tool in lower elos, where they will have lower coordination and escaping is as easy as walking away. In higher elos, the lack of a solid escape option in any of your buttons is terrible and creates a non-functional character. I still love playing the character though.
My judgment, after trying her out in ranked, is that she can still succeed but is overall weaker. With next to no escape, her builds have changed quite a bit, and the character still plays similarly, just not as effectively. Now playing the role of a proper bruiser, she just does not keep up with other bruisers' survivability and damage just yet. We'll be remaking the Hisui guide at the start of Season 7 to update with these changes and any other made further down in the season.
Bloody Hands switched back to Magnetic Midnight this patch for the blood weapon of the Crimson variant. Now, no matter whether you're picking Crimson or Dawn, you have a punch person for damage effectively on the upgrades.
Aodai, the premium pick for a lot of bruisers at the moment. The other pick being Spectral Jacket, which is hard for a lot of bruisers to utilize due to it being constrained to only being used on their ult. Aodai is the usual better option among the items, with its passive really making a strong for them. And it isn't a huge nerf, but the item will be a bit weaker.
Cowboy Hat and Star of the Wild saw attack speed buffs of 5% and 4% respectively. Blast Helm saw a 2 AP buff. Smaller buffs that have been adding up every patch so far to compete with Legatus.
Sultan's Adjourned saw 1% damage increase to its already very high passive damage along with a 1 AP buff, so it can compete with other arm pieces that auto attackers would want, like Radar.
We see a new purple and steel knee pads with a small amount of defense and tenacity to match Hermes as a more smooth transition.
Mage's got a rather interesting item in Killer Heals. It is the most skill amp in the boot slot and a non-unique 5% skill amp, which stacks with the other percent skill amp items. It has a few issues of still being a much lesser upgrade than other 4-score items such as Courtier or Persona. It seems mostly as if mages get an extra 4-score in the game. This is an item that they can really use.
EOD Boots got upgraded to a legendary, lost its tenacity, but gained 200 HP in a boot slot, which is massive when comparing it to other options like Hermes, which has 50 less for a meteorite at that. This is just an amazing value item.
Here are our strong solo queue picks for this patch. Starting with Johann. Although Healing Factor did see a small nerf, Sentinel saw a small buff, and Johann is recording a very high top 3 in win rate, making him very strong if you make it to the late game.
Darko did receive a buff this patch, but it was more placebo than anything else. Really, this reminded people he exists, and the menace he is showing in this easy S tier pick.
Vanya, maintaining her high pick rate from getting her skin, is still showing off very good stats. She works really well into tanks and bruisers, which there are quite a lot of.
Debbie and Marlene, the permanent S tier pick, but with enough counterplay by design that she's not too overbearing and can keep this level of strength for multiple patches without drawing an eye.
Lennox is performing well, especially the higher up you go. Her stats just keep getting better. She excels at tanking while also still dealing decent damage, especially when she hits the outer part of her Qs.
11 has been showing good results as an effective tank to always generate value on no matter what she's doing.
Yukai, being one of the less popular tanks, has pretty low pick rate, but has incredibly high stats, having a very high average placement and win rate, showing how well he performs, and he's also incredibly tanky while still providing a supporting role for the team. He got a nice W cooldown buff, making his supporting capabilities even better this patch.
Elena, while not the most effective frontliner, is amazing in dive comps where her overall tanky engages and great dueling, chase, and escape show their true colors. This character can just do a lot.
For Jackie, Axe, Dual Swords, and Two-Handed are all performing very well right now. Typically, there's only one Jackie weapon that does well, but having all 3 of these weapons, higher pick rates than normal, and still having great stats really shows how solid the character is right now.
Soichi. The turban changes opened up Soichi's builds to be incredibly malleable and take most resources, creating a great consistency if the player is skilled enough.
Rio's been a great scaling ADC, but it's especially good with her win rate and average kills being very high, while maintaining that permanently top 10 pick rate that she loves to have.
The old standard. All the items they have at the moment are effective. The character is safe with good self-peel and great tank breaking.
ARSL doesn't win as much as the other ADCs, but has an incredibly high amount of kills every game, despite getting nerfed a few times recently. While he isn't as strong as he once was, he's still definitely a top pick, and is especially strong in the mid game.
Chloe, despite her low pick rate, this character has been destroying the tiers. A very self-sufficient ADC that works in most, if not all, comps. This makes her incredible for climbing despite her difficulty with multiple builds to boot, showing an amazing character that overcomes her class's innate weaknesses.
Tia has received some buffs throughout the season, so it was inevitable to see her here at some point. After 3 damage buff, her stats have gotten very high and she's just performing well.
Yumin, a strong mage with great poke, dueling, healing, zoning, and mobility. Yumin has a little bit of everything, and while he may not be the best at all of it really comes together to work and make him stand out compared to the other mages, despite how competitive it really is to be a mage.
Zahir is never a popular character, but Throw is actually seeing a better pick rate than normal these past few patches, and the rest of his stats, such as win rate and average kills, are looking great. Rank 3 Global is primarily playing Zahir and doing really well.
Celine, after buffing her who knows how many times, Celine shows up again. This time, her passive buff making her damage a tad more lethal than it already was, and the R nerfs from the patch before mainly hurt her in competitive. She's even stronger in solo queue.
Arda had some changes this patch, and while they did nerf Arda in the competitive scene, which was mostly used for his RE teleport capabilities, solo queue Arda actually got some pretty nice buffs to his RW and RQ with the cooldown reduction and extra root time, making him pretty strong on solo queue since RW is the main one used.
And that's all we have for you today. The next video should be the Justina guide with a special guest, so look forward to it. And sorry for this one coming out so late. It was a lot more of a complex patch with a whole new character and a lot of fairly large changes overall.